Chapter 9. Consumer Protection. Section 1. Naturally, Arthur and Mary were delighted with the new baby. While Mary was in hospital, all 4 grandparents and Jennifer came to visit her. After a lot of discussion, they decided to call it Simon Arthur. After a few days, Arthur brought them both back home. Now life underwent a radical change. There was no more lying in the mornings or the weekends. The baby's routine began to dominate the household. One of the more notable changes that took place was that there was a lot of washing to be done. Up to now, Mary had done some of her washing by hand and had taken the rest of it to the laundrette in the high street. Just before Mary had gone into hospital, she persuaded Arthur to buy a fully automatic front-loading washing machine, which made the whole business of washing much less of a chore. One day, however, after Mary had loaded her machine with washing and was just starting to do the washing up, the machine started to make a most unusual noise. After a few seconds of this, there was a blue flash, and the machine went quiet. Mary found that she could do nothing. She couldn't even take the clothes out of the machine. She immediately rang up the electricity board showroom where they'd bought the machine. She was told by the girl who answered the phone that the electricity board themselves don't do any servicing of that particular make of washing machine, but that the manufacturers themselves prefer to attend to this. She gave Mary another number to ring. Mary immediately dialed this number and explained her problem to the man on the other end of the line. He told her that the earliest time that they could do anything about it would be 2.5 weeks later.
You've come about the washing machine, have you?
That's right, madam. Sorry, I'm a bit late, but I've had 3 calls to make today, and you can never tell how long they're going to take.
Well, better late than never, I suppose. Do you know, I've been over a fortnight without that machine, and I've got lots of washing to do. I've got a young baby, you know.
Oh, it's a front loader, is it?
Mm.
We've had no end of trouble with these. You should have got a top loader instead.
But they assured me at the showroom that this was the best possible model you can buy.
Oh, you don't want to take any notice of them. They don't know anything about it. We hardly ever get called out for a top loader.
Oh, I wish I'd known that before we bought it. Well, anyway, we're stuck with it now, I suppose.
Well, let's have a look at it then. Can you tell us exactly what happened?
Well, I just turned it on, and then it began making this peculiar noise. Then there was a blue flash, and it just stopped. I haven't even been able to get the washing out. It's been there a couple of weeks now. It probably stinks to high heaven.
Oh, well, we'll soon find out now.
Oh, do you mind if I leave you to it? The baby's crying for his feed. I'll make you a cup of tea a little later on when he's had it. All right, Simon. Mummy's coming.
Well, madam, the trouble was in your timer.
Oh.
Is it still on the guarantee?
Oh, yes, of course. It's practically brand new. We've only had it a week or 2.
Well, that's just as well, because these timers come very expensive. They're over 30 quid now, what with VAT and the latest price increase.
Have you managed to get it going, then?
Well, that's just it, madam. The lady I was with before I came to you had just the same trouble, and I used the last of my stock up there. And they told me in the stores that they hadn't got any more. You see, we get these timers from another factory, and they've been on strike for 3 weeks. To be honest, madam, I don't know when we'll have them in stock again. Section 2. The passage is taken from How to Complain by Christopher Ward.
Most of the popular domestic appliances in Britain are made by a dozen or so manufacturers, all of whom have service centres dotted about the country. Some are obliging enough to have their names and addresses in the telephone directory. Others, seemingly under the impression that they're purveyors of washing machines or vacuum cleaners to MI5, seem to keep their whereabouts a trade secret. Things are made more confusing by the fact that brand names often give no clue to the manufacturer's identity. Is your Flood-O-Matic made by the National Electrocution Corporation, or is it a little-known, now-defunct backwater of Cheetham Industries? You can find out this information from a little booklet called the ERT Directory, a sort of who's who of electrical servicing and repairs, published for the trade by Electrical and Radio Trading magazine. Your dealer should have a copy you can look at, but if not, write to Electrical and Radio Trading, and they will send you one. Having found someone to service your Flood-O-Matic, your problems are only just beginning. There is a peculiar notion entertained by those who work in service departments that they're doing you a favour by condescending to take the back off your vacuum cleaner or whatever. They are not. Firstly, as you will surely find out when you get the bill, they're being well paid to do the job. Secondly, until someone can produce an appliance that never goes wrong, every manufacturer has an obligation to the customer to provide an efficient after-sales service with spare parts available for up to 10 years after the discontinuation of a particular model. Failure to do so comes under the heading of unfair trading, and should be reported to the Director General of Fair Trading, Mr. John Methven. That might get someone into trouble, but it won't, unfortunately, get your washing machine repaired. The only person who can move mountains there is the service director at the manufacturer's head office.
Oral Practice 1. Practice saying these sentences from the dialogue.
That machine. Without that machine. Over a fortnight without that machine. I've been over a fortnight without that machine. Do you know I've been over a fortnight without that machine? Model you can buy. The best possible model you can buy. That this was the best possible model you can buy. But they assured me at the showroom that this was the best possible model you can buy.
What happened? Exactly what happened. Tell us exactly what happened. Can you tell us exactly what happened?
This peculiar noise. It began making this peculiar noise. And then it began making this peculiar noise. Well, I just turned it on, and then it began making this peculiar noise.
The latest price increase. What with VAT and the latest price increase? They're over 30 quid now, what with VAT and the latest price increase. Oral practice 2. Listen to the dialogue and then take the part of A.
You remember that I bought a freezer a couple of months ago?
Yes, that's right. You did tell me.
Well, do you know what happened the other day?
Don't say it went wrong.
I'll say it did. I got up one morning and found the kitchen floor flooded.
You didn't?
Yes, and I just filled it up with frozen meat.
Oh, no. Did you have to throw it all away?
Well, I didn't know what to do. So I put a lot of it in the oven and invited everybody I could think of to a party that very evening.
And did you get on to the manufacturers?
Yes, I did. And they told me they could come a fortnight later to fix it.
If that had happened to me, I'd have hit the roof. Now wind the tape back to the beginning of this dialogue, and this time speak at the same time as A. Remember that A speaks first. Now here's the dialogue again, and this time you take the part of A. Begin now. Yes, that's right. You did tell me. Don't say it went wrong. You didn't. Oh, no. Did you have to throw it all away? And did you get on to the manufacturers? If that had happened to me, I'd have hit the roof. Oral practice 3. Listen to Michael Molyneux, a lawyer with a special interest in consumer affairs. Then answer the questions in your book.
Supposing someone's bought a pair of shoes and the damn things do not, they fall to pieces or something. What would you advise them to do?
Well, there are a number of things that they can do. If they bought the pair of shoes and let's say the heel falls off within the first week, then what they should do is take the shoes back to the shop, because what's happened is that the shoes are not either fit for their purpose or of merchantable quality. Now, all right, that's a technical term, but it really means just reasonably sound for the price you paid.
Yeah. So what would happen if the shop said, well, we don't want to know?
Well, that is the classical legal problem. The shop might well say, you're absolutely right, you have a legal claim against us, we're quite wrong, but there's very little you can do about it at that stage. You can't actually go and put your hand in the till and force them to give you a sum of money. All you can do then, if they refuse to give you your rights, is to take them to court. And that's where most people opt out. That's where most people drop out, because they're not prepared to go that one stage further and go to court.
Yeah, well, that's, most people wouldn't, I know. But supposing somebody has a slightly more complicated problem, or a more serious problem, say they've had central heating installed, and it goes wrong. Now you're sitting freezing in the cold house in the winter, and you ring up the firm that put it in, and they don't want to know. What do you do then?
Well, once again, in the very last resort, if the people who installed the central heating for you, or whatever it is, don't want to know, then you have to go to court. And this is what frightens most people, and this is where the fly-by-night traders actually hold the whip hand, because they can force you to take action. They can put the ball in your court and force you to take action. And they can simply sit back and say, yeah, we may well be wrong, so sue me. And people don't do it. But if you've had central heating put in, there's probably another complication as well. You probably borrowed the money to do it. And once you've done that, you can be in dead trouble.
In what way can you be in dead trouble?
because the people who lend very large sums of money for things like central heating, double glazing, putting on an extra room on the back of the house, they are not stupid. They've been in the business for a very long time, and they have got you sewn up this way, that way, and sideways, and you will be liable, almost certainly, to go on paying them money, however defective the goods or the services that you bought are.
Yeah, that's terrible, isn't it? Now, the other kind of problem that you get is that people promise to do things when you say something is wrong. They say things like, oh, we'll send a chap round in the first thing in the morning, and the first thing in the morning he doesn't come. The next morning he doesn't come either. What can you do then?
Right. If it's a largish firm, if it's a large firm you're dealing with, if it's ICI or somebody like the gas board or whatever, what you do is to get on the telephone and say, I want to speak to the managing director.
Yeah.
I want to speak to your sales manager. I want to speak to somebody in authority, and insist that you get through and complain that way. The great problem is that all too often the people you're dealing with are small firms who are probably going to go bankrupt or go out of business next week and fade away. Maybe the people involved will crop up again the week after under a new name, but as far as you're concerned, they're dead and buried. That's the problem. You really shouldn't deal with small, fly-by-night firms unless you actually have a personal recommendation from a friend.
Oral Practice 4. Gerunds. Listen to the examples first.
Talking to you is so interesting.
Yes, and it's so interesting talking to you, too.
Yes, and it's so interesting talking to you, too.
Asking you for help's no good.
No, and it's no good asking you for help either.
No, and it's no good asking you for help either.
Now you go on in the same way.
Talking to you is so interesting.
Yes, and it's so interesting talking to you, too.
Asking you for help's no good.
No, and it's no good asking you for help either.
Seeing you smile is wonderful.
Yes, and it's wonderful seeing you smile, too.
Telling you anything isn't much use.
No, and it isn't much use telling you anything either.
Doing business with you is really worthwhile.
Yes, and it's really worthwhile doing business with you, too.
Talking to you isn't much fun.
No, and it isn't much fun talking to you either.
Working with you is difficult.
Yes, and it's difficult working with you, too.
Explaining things to you isn't much good.
No, and it isn't much good explaining things to you either.
That's the end of Oral Practice 4. Oral Practice 5. Infinitives. Listen to the examples first.
I should think learning a language is difficult.
Well, it's difficult for me to learn a language.
Well, it's difficult for me to learn a language.
I should think making friends here isn't easy.
Well, it isn't easy for me to make friends here.
Well, it isn't easy for me to make friends here. Now you go on.
I should think learning a language is difficult.
Well, it's difficult for me to learn a language.
I should think making friends here isn't easy.
Well, it isn't easy for me to make friends here.
I should think that sitting down's a relief.
Well, it's a relief for me to sit down.
I should think playing tennis in the winter's unusual.
Well, it's unusual for me to play tennis in the winter.
I should think living on your salary is impossible.
Well, it's impossible for me to live on my salary.
I should think that coming 5 minutes late's all right.
Well, it's all right for me to come 5 minutes late.
I suppose wearing jeans would be wrong.
Well, it'd be wrong for me to wear jeans.
I suppose saying whom is uncommon.
Well, it's uncommon for me to say whom. That's the end of Oral Practice 5. Oral Practice 6. You're a little surprised at what the first speaker says, so you repeat the information. Listen to the examples first. We've got a green front door. I painted it myself.
Oh, so you painted it green, did you?
Oh, so you painted it green, did you?
I've got short hair now. The barber cut it.
Oh, so he cut it short, did he?
Oh, so he cut it short, did he?
Now you do the same. We've got a green front door. I painted it myself.
Oh, so you painted it green, did you?
I've got short hair now. The barber cut it.
Oh, so he cut it short, did he?
Jane's got black hair now. She dyed it.
Oh, so she dyed it black, did she?
I've got strong coffee. That's the way I like it.
Oh, so you like it strong, do you?
I've got a clean windscreen now. I wiped it a moment ago.
Oh, so you wiped it clean, did you?
My petrol tank's half full. I've just filled it.
Oh, so you filled it half full, have you?
The windows are open. That's how I left them.
Oh, so you left them open, did you?
My dog's got some raw meat. He eats it like that.
Oh, so he eats it raw, does he?
That's the end of Oral Practice 6. Oral Practice 7. Dictation. First, cover up the passage and listen, please. I heard the story once of a man who was very proud of himself because he thought he was very good at finding bargains. He never paid the full price for anything. One day, he was delighted to find a shop which was selling trousers at half the price that one would normally pay for the cheapest pair. The first day he wore them, he was caught in a very heavy shower of rain. Imagine his surprise when the trousers started to disintegrate, and he found himself eventually without trousers. Luckily, there was nobody about, so he found the telephone box and called his wife to bring him another pair urgently. Now you'll hear the passage again, and this time you must write down what you hear. I heard the story once of a man who was very proud of himself because he thought he was very good at finding bargains. He never paid the full price for anything. One day he was delighted to find a shop which was selling trousers at half the price that one would normally pay for the cheapest pair. The first day he wore them, he was caught in a very heavy shower of rain. Imagine his surprise when the trousers started to disintegrate. And he found himself eventually without trousers. Luckily, there was nobody about. So he found the telephone box and called his wife to bring him another pair urgently. Now here's the passage again. I heard the story once of a man who was very proud of himself because he thought he was very good at finding bargains. He never paid the full price for anything. One day he was delighted to find a shop which was selling trousers at half the price that one would normally pay for the cheapest pair. The first day he wore them, he was caught in a very heavy shower of rain. Imagine his surprise when the trousers started to disintegrate, and he found himself eventually without trousers. Luckily, there was nobody about, so he found a telephone box and called his wife to bring him another pair urgently. Now, check the dictation in your book. That's the end of Chapter 9.